Hello FCA people. Thank you all for jumping on. We'll give a little bit of time for some more people to rock up. Feel free to reach out in the public chat. I will be answering questions in there today as we go through various things. Hopefully you can all hear me reasonably well. I believe my audio is all set up nicely, and we'll be kicking off very soon. Just going to see if I can adjust my screens a little bit. Alrighty. How many have we got so far? 7. Can everyone hear me all right? If you can, just let me know in the public chat. I'll make sure that the audio is all good so everyone can hear. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share with you guys all a video in the chat. Feel free to watch it anytime. After this session probably is ideal, but it is how you can actually go about connecting pinch payments with Annature, which is a component that I'll briefly talk about at the start. You can follow along the little 5-minute video that Joe has made on how to actually connect the two systems, because that is a fundamental part of the optimal flow that can be achieved with Pinch and Annature to ensure that all your clients are getting set up on direct debits. Here it is. Awesome. Just paste that link in there. Sweet. All right. Well, look, I'm going to get started. The main things that we're going to be covering today is just very briefly mentioning the Annature integration and what that can do for you. The next part is we're going to move on to a variety of the features that you can use inside of Pinch Payments to ensure that you're getting clients set up on pre-approval so that you can automatically debit them and ultimately achieve a much surer reinforced cash flow for your business, so that when you are executing work for your clients, you're actually getting paid on time. It's a pretty important one, right? So the main reason why I think this is all pretty relevant for you is because I see a lot of businesses every single pretty much week when I do one-on-one sessions with them who are effectively shooting themselves in the foot by allowing their payers to pay them late. So sort of the methodologies that I'm going to be looking to talk to you about in this session are really about changing how you think about payments in your organization and how Pinch can actually be used in that manner to ensure that you get paid, or at least increase the likelihood of getting paid. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to whip up the Pinch payment system, and I'll be able to show you how it all works. So for any of you here that are joining us that don't already have a Pinch account, obviously you need a Pinch account to take advantage of these features. If you're currently using other gateways like Stripe or Easy Debit or Easy Collect or Go Cardless or Ignition, there is really no reason for you to continue to do so, given that Pinch allows you to do direct debits. So that's debiting funds from your clients' bank accounts. And we facilitate card payments, including Amex, all from within the one system. So you can effectively remove 2 or more systems that you might currently have in play and consolidate down into Pinch. If you do have a reasonable number of mandates or arrangements and things like that with your other provider, we do offer migration services. There's a current caveat on that some of them are paused at the moment, the ability for us to do so. but we do offer the ability to migrate across so that you can effectively, without having to reach out back to your clients, you don't necessarily have to regather all those arrangements again. So that is an option. So keep that in mind. So let me bring this up onto the screen. So you should be able to now see our Xero Pinch environment. Now, for many of you, you might be using QuickBooks or MyOb or Xero. We support those 3 accounting softwares. When you register your account, you basically set it up. And once you've done so, you'll head to the dashboard section, which is here. And there'll be a guided steps for you to complete. There's really 3 key fundamental steps to setting up a Pinch account. 1, connect your accounting system. 2, get your verification documents in. And 3, go and configure your various settings that you need. So what we're going to first touch on is, okay, what settings can you change in Pinch that help you operate the system? So the main ones that are really big advantages that we have is surcharging. So what you can do is from the account settings under the Getting Paid tab, you can actually configure surcharge settings so that you can automatically pass on, or in the actual technical case, have your client pay your processing fee on your behalf. That can be done for cards or bank accounts, which is really good. And we then display those relevant fees and charges to your client when they're either setting up a pre-approval or making a one-off payment via the payment links on your invoices. So this is a really, really awesome feature. The other one is automated reattempts. So in the event that we have someone set up on a Pinch pre-approval, what you can actually do is you can have the system automatically reschedule that to try again in the event that it's failed, right? So this can just help you sort of automate more of your process, so you're not actually having to reach out and manually message or email or call your client to say, hey, that actually failed, can you try again? You can just have the system handle that for you, and we'll automatically send an email to your client letting them know when the date would be for the reattempt based on the configuration that you have. So these are all really good things. You can configure a variety of the emails that come out of our system. And you can see here that we have some sort of placeholder text, but you can do your own complete custom text, pardon me. And you can also add attachments and links and things inside of here in the event that you have additional T's and C's. And the other one is we allow you to actually apply some of your own custom messaging in a variety of our different pages. So the main ones is on our Pay Now page when people are making one-off payments. If you're not going to opt for a mandated pre-approval system, meaning effectively forcing people to set up pre-approval is your only way of taking payment, and you're going to still opt to do the old fingers crossed, hope my customer pays me on time approach, you can apply some messaging to one of the features that allows your clients to effectively save their payment method as a pre-approval when they're checking out, and you can add custom text in here. And then you can also, with these 2 links here and here, add custom text and T's and C's links to the normal pre-approval sign-up flow. Now, that pre-approval sign-up flow is a little bit different if you're going to be using Annature. It won't be taking advantage of these features here, but instead Annature, you'll have written your terms, your contract and things like that inside of your envelope, and you'll be able to add the Pinch payment capture method in there. So you would need to include your own info in there, but that's fine. So there are a bunch of the really good features. If you're using Xero specifically, so unfortunately not something available for MyOb or QuickBooks users amongst you, you can actually do some really awesome stuff here in Pinch with branding themes. Xero, you're actually able to make a variety of customized branding themes that basically differentiate the types of services that you issue to your clients. You can turn a variety of the Pinch payments features on or off based on those branding themes. So the use case here would be maybe, let's take this branding theme, for example. Let's say I don't want Pinch payments to collect payments on this branding theme. Like I don't even want to show customers the Pinch option. Maybe this is for, massive organizations that are going to be potentially paying you $80, $100, $200,000 in a single lump sum. Obviously, that's not very applicable to card or direct debit payments, and that's more suited for direct transfer. You probably don't want to confuse the client by showing them Pinch, so you could just turn Pinch off entirely on that theme as a potential option. Alternatively, if you had a particular, say, for example, service for a client where you issue them ad hoc invoices, or maybe in this case, it's actually probably more relevant for these 2 to be the other way around. You're issuing ad hoc invoices to a client where your expectation is that they pay you by the due date, but you're not intending to automatically debit them for that type of service, you might turn the automated debiting feature entirely off. But on a specific invoice where you might be doing, say, for example, you're doing on charging of their Xero subscription or QuickBooks subscription, and you're packaging that up in a monthly reoccurring invoice schedule, you could instead have the auto debit feature turned on. And effectively the way that would work with pinch payments is you'd have them on a pre-approval, either gathered from Annature or from the pinch feature. And you could then have the system automatically debit the client when that new invoice comes in because you've opted to have that feature enabled like that. So that's the various configuration options that you can do. This last one over here on the side is if you want Pinch to also send a copy of the invoice to your client with effectively a call to action to pay, you might want to turn that feature on. But in most cases, if you're currently handling your invoice issued from your accounting software, you can keep this off. So that's all the main quality of life features inside of the account config, which would be that third step. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to actually set up someone on a pre-approval. Now, two ways here. The first is actually the Annature integration. Now, as I mentioned, and I'll just quickly whip it onto my screen now. Share this tab instead. There you go. Joe recorded a really awesome Loom video that explains this process a lot better than I can, which actually shows you how to set up the integration and add the Annature payment, the Pinch pre-approval payment method into your engagements. Corey really recently added direct debit support for this as well. So it now does have feature parity, meaning that you can collect bank account or cards as part of this process, which is really awesome. So definitely give that a watch if you want to make sure that you're setting up Annature correctly and understand how to use it with Pinch. But the context here is once you've done this and you know how to use this, every time that you send an engagement to your client, if you include the Pinch payment option, the payment collection option, that will gather a pre-approval for your client. So you'll have a client with a pre-approval, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, that's just dropped. I'm going to show you how to do that if you weren't going to go down that pathway and you were just going to use Pinch instead. And the way to do this is from the customers section. So when you connect your accounting system with Pinch, we sync all of your customers over if they're active. And from here, this is where you can manage everything related to your clients in Pinch. So you can see on my screen here that I have a bunch of customers who already have pre-approvals, which is really awesome. It's super, super easy to send pre-approvals to your clients. You have about 6 different ways of gathering a pre-approval in Pinch. But I'm going to show you the 3 most common ones, right? First one is you just send them to your client proactively, right? So the way to do this is you can click your client or collection of clients, and you can apply filters at the top here if you want to make a specific collection of clients, like ones that you've recently invoiced that have email addresses, things like that. And all you need to do is hit this button here that says send pre-approval once you've made your selection, and that's going to fire out our pre-templated Pinch pre-approval invite to your client. The content for that you can actually edit from that original emails config page, which I showed earlier. This has a variety of success, chances. It does come from our Pinch domain. So some clients of yours may not be familiar with who Pinch Payments is. So it might either end up ignored or in their spam folder. So this is a very low hanging, just send it out and maybe you get a few people setting it up. So that's option 1. Option 2 is you can actually select the same parameters and you can actually export the list to a CSV. If you have any familiarity with systems like MailChimp or HubSpot or things like that that allow you to ingest a custom list, you would be able to effectively create your own pre-approval invitation template, ingest a list, the list that we export to you has the pre-approval sign-up link for each client inside of it, and you would be able to create a customized template that would send each customer their pre-approval sign-up link. The advantage of that is it would be able to come from your email domain. You'd be able to customize the visuals of it and completely, customize the branding, which would have a lot better success rate. So that's option 2. And the third option, which is a really common one in the accounting industry, is when you have your client sort of getting onboarded, you can actually fill this out with them, all right? So the way to do that is when you click into a client record, you'll see the option here called Launch Pre-Approval Page or Copy URL. You can either copy them the URL directly and get them to do this with you over the phone, or you can actually open up the pre-approval sign-up page from your side and with your client, and I'll just share this tab now, you can actually shadow them through that enrollment process by getting them to detail to you the information over the phone, of a card or bank account. And once this is activated, that is the pre-approval enrolled, right? So they're the main ways that you can set up a client on pre-approval. Now, important piece to note here, there are 3 other ways that your client can set up pre-approval. Most of these are proactive ways. One of them is from the customer portal, which is something that I'll touch on a little bit later. But effectively, a customer portal is giving your client their own user sign-in to a portal where they can gain visibility over the invoices that you've raised for them. It's designed to connect to multiple merchant accounts, meaning they may be your client, but they might also be a local mowing group or pool servicing or digital marketing or other pinch-enabled businesses. They can have their one account, get the visuals and invoices for all of those businesses, all in one nice place. Clients, when they're saving a payment method, can set up a pre-approval from within there. And the last other method is from the payment page. So the payment page, and what I'm going to use here is I'm going to show you how you can take a payment sort of over the phone as well with a client. Before I continue, do any of you have any questions about that functionality so far? Just let me do if you reach out in the chat if you do, and I can take a moment to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, feel free to save them until the end, and we can sort of have a little bit of a discussion session near the end. What I'm going to show you now is how you can take a payment over the phone and also potentially use it as a method to capture a pre-approval. So we can see here that Clark Merrill has this big invoice. What you can actually do is you can click into the invoice and you can hit this button here that says Launch Pay Now page. This is the same payment link and page that your client can get to by following the payment link on the actual invoice. So for Xero users, that's something that's just an embedded feature. Inside of your PDF template, there'll be a little hyperlink button that says click here to pay online. And inside of your invoice issue template as well. For MyOb and QuickBooks users, you will need to configure that because it's a custom URL that needs to be added in. I'm just going to have a quick pause and read. Stephen Elizabeth, if we are completing the pre-approval, how do we prove it was authorized by the client? Common sense things apply here, right? So you would need some form of evidence or paper trail. In the event that you set this up on behalf of your client and then they disputed the authority of that, we simply allow you the functionality to do so. If you do so wrongly, without authority, that's a you issue, and it's very likely that you would lose a transaction dispute. So definitely keep a paper trail of either email communications, recorded phone call, anything like that, if you are intending on setting this up with the client. Just common sense stuff applies there. The client will receive a email confirmation of that though. So if they weren't authorizing you, I would imagine that they would immediately query that, being like, whoa, what's going on here? I've not authorized this, which usually catches any of those cases, not that they really ever come up. Hopefully that answers your question, Stephen Elizabeth. All right, back here. So payment page, this is the payment page that is directed to, oh, that's not what I wanted. I've gone and clicked the wrong link. Here we go. Let's open up this page and share this tab. All right, this is the pinch payment page. So from here, your client can do a few things. They can make a payment. So you can see here that if I was your client intending to pay this invoice, I can see what payment options I have, and I can also see whether or not processing fees apply, i.e. I'm being surcharged. So we can see here that if I selected bank account, there's no fee because you as the business, in this case, based on the config, have chosen to absorb the fee on behalf of the client. Now, bank account direct debit fee is a maximum of $5. So this would just be $5 that gets deducted from this when we settle you to pay that processing fee. Alternatively, if the client opted to pay via card, we can see that there's going to be a $197 fee added on top of the original invoice value to cover the card processing costs, right? We can also see if your client's paying via mobile, that GPay is an option currently, and we'll soon hopefully be launching Apple Pay to bring that up to parity as well. We also support a really cool system called Click to Pay, which is a MasterCard initiative. So any of your clients paying via MasterCard will actually have the ability to, if they have a Click to Pay account, effectively save their payment information that will preload this for them. It's a really cool little feature as well. So from here, your client would be able to make a payment and pay for the full value of the invoice. Alternatively, and I'll briefly touch on it a little bit later, but you have the ability to create payment plans that your client can generically opt into. So we can see here, if I was your customer, I have the option to either pay via card or bank account. But if I didn't want to do that, and I'm looking a little further down the page, I can see that this merchant is choosing to offer me some payment plans that I can choose to enroll into. So let's say, for example, given that this is now like a $10,000 payment potentially, I might now choose to break that down into 10 payments instead of a little under $1,000, right? So this is a really handy feature. If you do identify that you have clients that are less likely to pay you on certain sizes of invoices or certain types of invoices, you can configure these payment plans to be only displayed to clients on a particular branding theme, or if the invoice is over a particular dollar threshold, which can really help to sort of create a bill smoothing and just increase the likelihood that your client at least starts paying you instead of not paying you. And that's what Pinch is really all about. It's maybe not, there is no way to force a client to pay you. There's no system on the planet that can do that. But what we can do is we can create systems and automated processes to help ensure that your client is more likely to pay you, or you're at least attempting to have the funds debited. And then the only things that you can block you there are them not having funds available on their card or no money in their bank account, right? And those are things that we can't control. Cool. All right. So that's the Pay Now page. You can see here as well that you can actually save your information, which is really cool. And there is a feature which I can't show you on this test environment right this second, but there is a feature that allows you to save the payment method as a pre-approval, which is really cool. All righty. Any questions about the Pay Now functionality or anything like that? Is everyone following along nicely? No questions so far, but feel free to pop them in and I'll spot them. So the next thing that I'm going to briefly talk about, given that we've just come off the back of, payment plans that are generically available, I'm just going to show you the payment plans feature. So this feature can be used in two ways. The first one, in most cases, we don't typically recommend it unless you have a specific desire or need to use it, because it's actually better covered by just setting your client up on a pre-approval and then sending them or creating a reoccurring invoice schedule for each of their weekly, fortnightly, monthly debits that you need to do. So that's good for sort of subscriptions. That particular plan type is these two here. The client elect to partially pay an invoice. Not at the moment, Stephen and Elizabeth. The partial payment functionality, you could allow a client to create a partial payment by setting up a invoice breakdown plan that maybe had, a half payment, right? But they would have to elect to do so. We don't allow at this stage clients to just say, I want to pay off this random dollar value off this total invoice. That will be coming with a feature update in the future called hosted checkout page. It's on our roadmap for a little bit later in the year. And it will allow you or your client to basically just say, I want to pay off $217.50 off my $1,000 invoice. So that will be coming in the future. But if you wanted to facilitate that currently, you just need to select a couple different partial payment amount options to let your client do so. But in most cases, if someone only wants to pay you a partial amount of an invoice, they're usually better off set up on some sort of schedule of payments for that amount, say 25% every week or something like that, which is where this invoice breakdown feature really shines. So the way that this feature works is effectively you're taking an existing invoice coming from your accounting system, you're enrolling the client into that payment plan, which if they're on a pre-approval will just start because you've already got the authority. But if not, it'll send an invite asking your client to sign up. And from there, it will automatically debit the client the amounts based on the schedule, right? So in this case here, let's call this FCA test is just the pay in, we'll just do a silly number like pay in 7 is the sort of payment plan that we're going to create. And all you need to do is say, I want to create a reoccurring payments for a total of 7 payments that happen every, I don't know, let's say we're going to do every fortnight, so every 14 days. That's it. This payment plan is now done. If I hit create, this is a finished payment plan, right? You can see that there are some other options. So you can now add custom references if you need to, and you can also specify if you want the plan to start the debiting on a specific day of the month. And then at the same time, you've also got the option, as I showed earlier, you can allow clients to effectively opt into payment plans. So you can choose either a dollar amount where we only show this payment plan as an option if their invoice equals or exceeds the amount, or you can show it on specific templates, which I don't think you can see here until I select them. So there's some of the options that you have available to you. But all you need to do now, once you've done this creation, is just hit create, and that will create this payment plan. And then from here, all you need to do to invite a client's invoice to be chopped up by a payment plan is go and find the invoice. So I'm going to go and look in our outstandings. Here we go. John's Towing. They've got quite a sizable invoice here, probably pretty eligible to be chopped up. You hit choose payment plan, and you select the payment plan that you want to have associated to this invoice. You can see here that this option for schedule for a future date comes up. This is the flow that happens when a client already has a pre-approval. So you've already got the authority, and you can basically specify when you need that payment plan to start. So like say, for example, I've agreed with the client that that's not going to start until the 20th of June. You can actually configure that and it will basically schedule the first payment to start on the 20th of June and then follow the predetermined, in this case, 7 payment every fortnight schedule, right? So this payment plan is now configured, and we can see here that it's all scheduled, and our system has gone and created all of those scheduled payments ready to be debited. That's it. That's how the payment plan feature works. Really, really handy tool. If you are a business that has, a reasonable amount of outstandings and you want the most time, what's the word, or least resource intensive way of trying to get some of that sort of outstandings paid down, start sending your clients payment plans. Send them an email, copy the payment plan link, right? So when you invite a client that doesn't already have a pre-approval, it will email them, but you'll actually be able to go to the plan overview page and copy the sign up link, go and email them, call them. You can enroll them from that same page. And that's a really, really effective tool of, instead of calling them and trying to harass them to pay the invoice out front, in full, you can use it as an option to do that. But in the event that they don't, you can either opt them into a payment plan or invite them to a payment plan. And that can be a really effective way to start getting a little bit of that money flowing, so that ultimately you can start to bring these numbers down, right? And get your overall account into a more automated auto debit flow. Yeah, so they're most of the features that I wanted to cover today. How are we doing for time? I think we're 15 minutes left. There's probably one more thing that I'll show you, which is the customer portal. And then outside of that, I'll use the last section of the discussion for any questions that you might have about anything. And we'll briefly chat pricing as well, because I do believe for any of you that are not signed up to FCA, and for any of you that are a first class accountant's account that are already signed up and you haven't had confirmation that you're receiving our special FCA deal pricing, please reach out to me and I'll make sure that that's been applied to your account. Alrighty, so let's just talk pricing real quick and we'll just get that out of the way. So pricing page, this is our pricing. We have our pricing for our direct debits. We have our pricing for our cards, right? We are doing a cheaper rate as a special for FCA members. So in this case here, it will be 1.7% on the cards. So that means that if you are going to pass on those fees to your client, they're paying a little bit less, which is always nice, right? Ideally, I'd love to hear that you're not surcharging them because surcharging is never nice. But if you can't afford to not to, at least we'll be charging your client a little bit less because we're charging you less. So that's an important one. So yeah, please reach out to me if you've not received that pricing confirmation. But otherwise, if you do sign up, all signups for FCA going forward are having this automatically applied to their account. So that's pricing. What I'll do now is I will just jump into another one of my testing accounts where I can show and demo to you the customer portal really quickly. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, now is a really good time to get them down into the chat so we can chat about those when the session is up. I'm just loading my customer portal account here so that I can get it all pre-loaded for us. Alrighty, let me share my screen again. Alrighty, bring that up on the screen. Here we go. All right, so this is another account that we have. This is a client called Sylvester who has activated their customer portal. So they've been invited to or self-enrolled into the customer portal. Once it is configured, the client will effectively have a user access to something called the Pinch customer portal, which they can log into anytime, and they can do a variety of things from the customer portal. So the first thing that they can do is they can see all of their invoices, all right? So from here, they can see that whether or not something is already scheduled to be paid because they're on auto debit, or if it's not, because maybe you don't have that branding theme configured for auto debit. They can make one-off payments and pay off those invoices. Or alternatively, if the invoice is due in the future, say for example, well, none of these are, they can they can pre-approve the invoice to be debited on the due date. They can look at their invoice history. Now, one of the cool features about this is it does not matter if the client paid via Pinch, they can still use the Pinch portal to view and download their tax receipts on Xero connected accounts, which is really awesome. And then from here, they can also add payment methods. So we can see here that this client has a Visa that's been saved. But when they're setting up a payment method, they can choose from the available options which you're offering them. So in this case, maybe they want to set up a bank account. They can fill this out, and they can also choose to enable pre-approval. Now, one of the features that I haven't mentioned is the ability for you to configure your Pinch account so that you surcharge everything, but in the event that the client sets up a pre-approval, you reward them by absorbing that fee on their behalf. We show your client this to ensure that they know that if they set up an eligible payment method, that they're not being charged, right? So in this case here, the bank account is not being surcharged by the merchant. So we're showing them that if they set up a bank account, there will be no fees to them, which is really cool. So that's the customer portal. Alrighty, looks like there is a question in chat. Anthony, what branding does the customer see, FCA or Pinch? It depends on the context there, Anthony. Do you want to maybe elaborate on what you're specifically referring to? I'll take a little stab in the dark and say that it all depends on if you're issuing out of your accounting system, they're still going to see FCA on all your invoice related stuff. But when they actually go to pay, they'll be taken to the Pinch payment page, which is obviously a Pinch payment page. However, it will show your branding. When it comes to transactional emails and pre-approval invitations that are actioned from the Pinch system, they are Pinch emails, so they are Pinch branded. But where possible, we do include your logo and reference to your company in the body of those emails to ensure that the client knows that it's coming from you, right? So that might answer that question. So it really depends. It's a little bit of both. It just depends on the context. Transactional is always Pinch. Stuff coming from your accounting system remains the same. It is still you. So, Anthony, that's a really good question. This one's a really, really good one. So what I'll do is I'll just give it a little fire emoji. One of the awesome things about how cards work in modern day technical infrastructure is when someone uses a card and saves it in a pinch pre-approval, we use a system called tokenization. And effectively what tokenization does is, one, it's a really secure system because tokens they have an entity, one-to-one entity relationship, meaning if someone managed to hack the system and gain access to the tokens, there's nothing that they can do to misuse that token. It is bound to the entity that it was set up on, meaning they can't take it and try and use that token elsewhere. Can't be done, right? What's also cool about tokens is when a card expires, the gateway actually, well, the issuer, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, send the gateway with that token an update that refreshes that token and automatically rolls over the expiry, right? So what's really good about this is that instead of having to constantly, let's say a client has a few different cards and a few of them are expiring, instead of having to sort of send them the invitations to set up the payment plans or the pre-approvals again, the next time that a payment is going to debit from a card that has expired, the token automatically refreshes and the payment works. It doesn't need to go through any hoops or anything like that. You don't have to reach out to the client to get them to update. The token just automatically updates, which is really, really handy. So, and it's like a 99 point something % success chance of that happening. It's only really clients that have really fringe bank accounts. You know, to be honest, things like Citibank, stuff like that, sometimes encounter issues. But all of the major banks here in Australia, New Zealand, and the US are all supported, and the token will automatically roll over. Alrighty, Stephen Liza, can default charges be automatically back charged to client if the dispute is not our fault? Disputes and defaults are two different things. So I'll explain both of those separately. So a default, or what you might be calling a default, is something called a dishonor. Effectively, what that means is we have attempted to take the funds and we have failed to do so. If that is done on a card, there is no associated dishonor fee. We don't get charged a fee from the gateway. We do not charge you a fee. So you can reattempt card payments without any real drawbacks or any extra fees as much as you want, because no one gets charged any dishonor fees. That is not the case for bank account payments. The way bank account payments work is, as a facilitator, we have already done our job. We've taken up your request to debit the client. We've sent all the information to the bank, and all the same amount of work has been done, whether or not it's successful or failed. And basically what happens is, in the event that there aren't funds on the bank account, the gateway still charges us the same gateway fee, regardless of success or failure. And unfortunately, we do pass that on to you. Now, inside of pinch payments, we don't have a feature that allows you to automatically pass that dishonor fee onto your customer. We're not really big believers ethically in doing so, so we've not created a feature for it. If you wanted to pass that dishonor fee onto your customer, you would need to specifically have them sign something, say, for example, your contract, that would allow you to add that as a line item, or maybe you accumulate those and debit them as an invoice later on in the month. You would need to specify that in your contracts. It is not something that Pinch manages, or is nothing to do with the pre-approval arrangement that they set up with us. So that's that. The separate thing that you've mentioned there is disputes. Disputes is a separate process. A dispute is effectively when your client has been debited and they don't believe that the debit matches the services they received, or they didn't give you authority to debit them, and they can dispute that with their bank account. Effectively, what happens there is we then receive a dispute notification from the client's bank account via the gateway. We reach out to you and basically try and get evidence to prove that you did have authority, and we then submit that on your behalf back to the gateway, who looks at it and determines whether that's truthful or not. And they will either honor the dispute, meaning that you lose and we have to return those funds back to the client, or they dishonor the dispute. I don't know if it's called that. It's just called like a reject the dispute, at which point you win it. In either case, we charge what's called a dispute fee, which I think is $25 for bank account disputes and $35 for card disputes to effectively manage that on your behalf. So hopefully that clarifies those two separate things. Anthony, okay, branding question answered. Is it all good? Cool. All right. Well, look, we've got 5 more minutes left in the session. If there's anything else you need to know if you haven't signed up to Pinch yet and you're still sort of querying things, definitely ask them now. As part of the Pinch system, we have a really robust partner referral program as well. So if you are obviously an accountant or a bookkeeper, which is what you all are, you may identify clients that you work with that could also take advantage of the Pinch features to help sort of get them back in a good position or automate more of their payments collection. We do I believe with FCA, we do a 10% partner referral, 15% partner referral commission for having brought us the client. So for 2 years, you'll earn 15% of the revenue that we generate from the client back as partner referrals. All you need to do is basically reach out to us and request to become a partner. We'll send you the contract, you sign it, we then set you up with the features. It allows you to also access that partner's account if they give you authority to, meaning given that you are their accountant, you can jump into Pinch and do Pinch-related things on their behalf if you need to as well. So that's one of the big feature benefits as well. Another question from Stephen Elizabeth. Where multiple approvers are required, can pre-approval payments be set up? Pinch Payments does not currently support multi-signatory pre-approvals. So it's not super common for dual signatories sort of across most industries. So in terms of those clients, we just can't currently support them. It is on our roadmap. It's not super high on the roadmap. It hasn't been requested that much. So hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be able to support dual signatory, but currently it's not supported. What is the processing transfer time? 2 different things there, processing times and transfer times. Processing times. Card payments are instant, meaning we get the money instantly, which means we can usually then transfer time. We can settle you the following day. There is a little asterisk over that, which basically means Amex payments take 1 additional day because Amex sort of goes through a little bit of an additional layer of checking and transaction monitoring before they release the funds. So next day for cards like Visa and MasterCard, the following day after that for Amex. With direct debits, which is bank account payments, let's say the payment was due on a Monday. That's the day that the payment processing starts. It takes about 2 days for the bank account to register that and actually debit your client. And we then receive the funds and settle you the following day. So it takes about 3 days from initiating the payment to receiving your funds. All of those times listed there are business days. So we do not settle on the weekends, and bank account direct debit processing does not happen on the weekends. Card payments do, but bank accounts don't. Because unfortunately here in Australia, for whatever reason, the banking network is still only a Monday to Friday system here in Australia. So any payments that are due on a Saturday or a Sunday will actually start on a Monday. Hopefully that answers that for you. Alrighty, we've got 1 more minute left in the session, so feel free to answer any get some last questions answered. Otherwise, easiest way to get signed up on Pinch Payments if you are wanting to get started is head to our registration page. You can find this on the website. Looks a little something like this. And register your account, right? No monthly fees, no lock-in contracts. The only things that we get you to look at is a merchant service agreement and a tripartite agreement, which just basically tells you important stuff like, hey, who's our acquiring done by? What are the requirements of that acquiring? Blah, 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 blah. And then you can opt out anytime. If you, for some reason, don't love Pinch, which I would be shocked to experience, is that you can just disable it at any time. There's no fee, nothing associated to that. Cool. Alrighty. Well, look, I think we can leave it there safely. If you guys have any other questions outside of this or anything else comes to mind after this session, definitely send us an email. The best place to do so is support@getpinch.com.au, and you can get an answer from any of our team members. Sweet. Thank you all for attending. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.